Welcome to Light It Up, a podcast about resilient women balancing motherhood, their careers, personal lives, and all of the challenges that come along with being a superwoman. Each week, you'll be motivated to take action to lead, inspire, transform, and empower. Now, here's your host, Dr. Aginah Musherah. Hey, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Light It Up. I want to thank you for joining me. I am your host, Dr. Aginah Musherah, and today we are going to end out the month of October with the conversation about breast cancer awareness and cancer awareness in general, because as you know, we began the month with a friend of mine, Evie Ali, who is a breast cancer survivor. Today, I have a very special guest, Cynthia Turnquest, who is from the Cancer Support Center, which is located in Homewood, Illinois. And there's also a second location in Mokina. And Cynthia is the Director of Outreach and Strategic Partners at the Cancer Support Center. And she's been gracious enough to join us today to talk about all of the great programs and support that they offer those who have been diagnosed and who are battling cancer. So welcome to Light It Up, Cynthia. Thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you. So happy to be here.
Yes, so this is, I want to give you an opportunity to talk to the audience about your work with the Cancer Support Center and also what the center does for those who are breast cancer warriors, cancer warriors and survivors, because the focus is not only on breast cancer, obviously other forms of cancer, but since we are in the month of October, I think that's breast cancer is fresh on my brain. But if you could just talk to us about your role at the support center and what you all do in the community.
Sure. Well, I have been with the Cancer Support Center now for over 10 years. I came to the center actually as a volunteer. I was a member of their junior board. I was at home with small children, and of course, I've always been one that feels, it's kind of your duty to give back philanthropically and volunteer wise. So when I was approached to by a friend to come to a meeting, I was happy to. I joined the board and worked for several years on the board, and then I found out about my dad's diagnosis with cancer, and so that really changed things. That really put things in a different light for me, a different perspective. Suddenly I was kind of on the other side of the fence. I had never had a close cancer experience in my life before. And suddenly, it really changed things for me. I ended up losing my dad to cancer. And the center was really there for me in a way, not in the traditional sense, but in a way that really helped me transition through that difficult time. So just by volunteering and being with other people that had a connection to cancer was very therapeutic to me. I didn't utilize the services in the traditional sense. I didn't see a counselor, but the volunteering aspect was big for me, and it really helped me a lot. Then during my tenure as on the board, a position became available for their community relations manager. And my kids had gotten older and had started school. And so I said, and I have a background in marketing and public relations and communications. And I said, you know what? I think this might be the place for me. And I made a call and went and interviewed, and before you know it, I was in that position. And really the 10 years has gone by tremendously fast, because I feel like what I do is I almost feel like I'm Santa Claus, because I get to go in the community. I am one of the chief ambassadors for the community, and I go and I share. I do speaking engagements and presentations, and this is kind of my world pre-COVID. So we'll get to that later on how all those things have changed a little bit. But really, just just the idea was for me to get out into the community, build partnerships, provide information to individuals, to let them know about this wonderful, wonderful resource that's in the Southland area. And it's all free of charge. So what those services include are obviously therapeutic services. So you have counseling and networking groups, support groups, individual counseling, which is a big deal because other organizations of our kind, and mind you, we're the only one of our kind in the Southland area. There is no one else that does what we do in the Southland area, but other organizations in metropolitan Chicago that do what we do, a lot of them aren't able to do the individual counseling anymore for obvious reasons, economic reasons. But we're still able to maintain that service, which is huge for a lot of people. But as I said, we have networking groups and support groups for every type of cancer you can imagine, not just for the individuals with cancer. So it's their loved ones, their caregivers, their children, bereaved. If you've lost a loved one due to cancer, we have groups as well. But we also have amazing wellness programs. And they're really surrounded around our 5-point model of program service, which covers nutrition, fitness, counseling and stress management, education and networking, and body image. So we have all sorts of programs. So we'll have nutrition classes. So you can come and you can, learn how to make healthy meals that can help aid. And if you're having some side effects due to your treatments, we'll have courses on supplements or spices and things like that can help, aid it when you're struggling in those areas, and just overall good nutrition and how it is a part of the healing process when it comes to battling cancer. Our fitness programs, we have, Zumba, and we have all sorts of movement classes and yoga and things like that to just get that body moving and keep you strong and keep you energized. We have stress management. We have meditation, and we have yoga. We have gentle massage, and keep in mind, all of our therapists and all of our program facilitators are licensed and certified. We do not take the health and well-being of our participants lightly. So we might function a great deal with volunteers because we have a great, robust volunteer program, but we absolutely ensure that our program therapists and facilitators are paid and licensed and certified. So, but we also have an amazing kids programs. So we have kids club and kids camp and winter camp, and we have family therapy, so you can come in with the entire family. It's really important for people to understand that, cancer impacts everyone.
Yeah.
Not just the individual with cancer. It impacts the children, the husband, the spouse, the best friend, the next door neighbor. So really we work really hard to try and address the needs of everyone that's impacted by cancer, and at whatever stage you're in your journey with cancer. Everyone doesn't necessarily, walk through our doors at time of diagnosis. My office used to sit, I had a big picture window in my office, and it used to sit right at the parking lot. And I would, on numerous occasions, see cars come in and they would park and they would just sit there. And then they would leave. No one would get out the car. And then maybe next week I'd see that same car come back, and it would sit there. And then maybe by the third time or the fourth time, the person would actually get out. Because the first step is the hardest, just walking through the door, because oftentimes that's a person's really first maybe admittance that, I've had cancer, and I need help, Yeah. So we try to meet people wherever they are. And sometimes a support group or counseling really isn't the best way, to introduce someone to our services. They're apprehensive. It's a trust factor there. I don't know you. I don't want to be vulnerable with you. So maybe you come to a nutrition class and
Mhm.
you learn about healthy eating, or maybe you come to a meditation session where you don't speak at all, you
Mhm.
know, and that's that gentle introduction. And you start to make friends, and you start to, you know, meet and establish trust with our therapist. And then before you know it, you're transitioning into other, you know, program areas. So we really just try to meet people where they are, provide as many programs that we can,
Mhm.
um, with the hopes that, you know, it will be impactful as people journey through cancer.
Yeah. How long has the Cancer Support Center been in existence in the South?
Oh, I think we're in 28 years now. We celebrated our 25th anniversary about 3 years ago. So yeah, we'll be hitting 30 years soon. And we started off with a small little storefront. I think it was on Halsted, you know, with one therapist and a volunteer who answered the phone. We had six amazing founders, women that were from the Southland area. One was an oncology nurse. One was a respite a hospice nurse,
Mhm.
um, um, uh, two women that were battling cancer themselves, and they all came together because they were utilizing services in the western suburbs.
Mhm.
And they were like, "This is, you know, this is crazy. You know, we need something like that here." And so they made a few calls, and they were kind of discouraged. They were like, unless you have a big hospital backing you, or you know, some big large funding source, you know, good luck with that.
Mhm.
And as you know, us Southsiders, we don't take, you know, no for an answer.
Right.
So they partnered with some local Ingalls Hospital, which is now part of, you know, University of Chicago now, but at the time they were community, small community hospital. We
Mhm.
partnered with several oncologists there that were on our professional board, and before you know it, started fundraising, and you know, here we are. You know,
Wow.
we have two locations now, and we're thriving, and we're meeting the needs of, you know, so many people. It's amazing.
That's awesome. I mean, and I really like the fact that it seems to be just a holistic program in terms of the services that are provided. And then you factor in the caregiver, the spouse, the children, et cetera. Because from the conversations that I've had with, the two friends of mine who um, have battled cancer, they talked about the support system with their family, but also being concerned about how their diagnosis has impacted them. In fact, one mentioned that she felt like she needed to be strong for them.
Hmm.
Actually, they both mentioned the same thing, that they felt like they needed to be strong, that they, needed to provide their family with reassurance that they were going to be okay. Um,
Absolutely.
so it,
That's a, yeah, that's a very common theme. Um, um, that's why the center is so important. It's a soft place for people to land, because, you know, the survivors tend to really have this kind of strong exterior that they feel they have to maintain, because they are concerned about their loved ones. They're concerned about the kids and the husband and the, you know, their friends, and they want to maintain some sense of normalcy when really there's nothing normal about what's happening to them, right?
Mhm.
And so to be able to come to the center, to be able to be in the presence of other people that either are going through the same thing or maybe have been through, and can provide some sort of, you know, support and insight to them, is tremendous. It's tremendous. It's that sigh of relief. It's that deep breath that you can take, you know, knowing that I'm in a safe place, and I can kind of unload this and not worry that it's going to be a burden to a family member. And the same goes for the family member. So we have a great support group, a brain tumor group that's one of our largest groups, and we have they meet together. They meet once a month. They come together for a joint session, but then midway through the evening they break off, and the caregivers go into another area with a separate therapist, and then the survivors stay. And really what that does is that kind of allows the caregiver, because it works both ways, it allows the caregiver we always use that saying, when you get on the place, you have to put your oxygen mask on first, right?
Mhm.
That's them putting their oxygen mask on, because they need to be taken care of as well. They need that support system that's aside from their loved one, so that they can speak with other caregivers that are going through the frustrations and the fears and the anxieties and things like that.
Mhm.
They have that ability to kind of process through what's going on, so that when they are with their loved one that's battling that cancer, they can be the best support system they can be. But they've got to take care of themselves first. And that's what a lot of caregivers don't realize. They
Mhm.
don't realize that their health and mental health and physical health, because this all goes hand in hand,
Right.
is just as important as at this time as their loved ones.
Mhm. Now, usually, how does the referral process work? I mean, I know that obviously you're in existence here in the Southland, but typically what happens? Does the hospital, the local hospital, maybe, you know,
Mhm.
refer a
We
patient?
have a lot of touch points.
Okay.
And as I'm saying, this is pre-COVID now.
Right.
I also run an outreach ambassador program. So I have 150 outreach volunteers, ambassadors, we call them, that go out into all of the area hospitals and healthcare facilities, and they set up outreach tables. They do it once, twice a month. They're actually on the oncology floors, in the radiation departments, wherever really, participants that would be coming to the center are. That's where you'll find us.
Mhm.
And a lot of them are survivors themselves, not all of them, but a great deal of them. I would say probably about 80% of my volunteers are survivors themselves.
Mhm.
Um, and that's a testimony to us, because that means they want to come back and give back. So that's wonderful. So you will find us in all of the hospitals. So, like I said, St. James the Franciscans, Ingalls U of C, South Suburban Advocate, all of the area hospitals, Alpha Med, and the affiliate oncologists, all of those, you'll find us there.
Mhm.
But we also have partnerships with hospitals as well. So when they're doing their intake, they have our information, they have referral forms. Of course, we have to have permission, obviously, from the patient themselves, but they'll fill out, when they're going through their intake, they'll fill out that information, and then they send it to us, and then we then contact the individual, inviting them to come in, or giving them additional resources, via mail.
Mhm.
But and then we do, you know, um, we probably averaged about 50 health fairs and community expos and things like that. Those same ambassadors and myself, we would go to those. You've seen all of them in the community. You're constantly probably seeing advertisements for them. I do speaking engagements. So, the Kiwanis Club might call me, or, the Lions Club, or school districts. You'd be surprised how cancer impacts students, and how people don't realize, because you think, oh, this is a child or this is a teenager, they're really not tuned into what's happening. Oh, they're very much tuned into what's happening, but they're not often able to articulate that. So you might see things that happen that are uncharacteristic of the student. Maybe their grades are dropping, maybe they're having behavior problems, and you're thinking, what's wrong with Junior? Like, this is a, but if grandmother has grandma had a diagnosis, or God forbid, the child themselves has a diagnosis, this is going to tremendously impact them, and their the way they function, at school. And we take for granted that the teachers and the staff are capable of, first of all, identifying those changes,
Mhm.
and then addressing them most effectively. So we have programs where we go into the schools, and we give workshops, and we give seminars to teachers, to social workers, to nurses, to administrators, so that they're able to, first of all, recognize when there's a cancer crisis going on in the classroom with a student, and then being able to offer them resources to address those. So we try, we're a mighty small, force, but we get out there and we do the best we can, to get the word out as best as best we possibly can.
That's absolutely wonderful. And now, and you've mentioned obviously we're in COVID, and
Mhm.
prior to COVID, obviously folks could come in person for.
Yeah, wow.
How has the Cancer Support Center been able to pivot? What are you all doing
Yeah.
in the midst of COVID to help to continue to support?
Well, when you say pivot, let me tell you, Dr. Muhammad, we have done backflips. We haven't just pivoted. We have done things that we thought we would never be able to. So the interesting part about it is right before COVID hit, really, so what we did was in March, we closed our doors on a Friday and at the very end of March.
Mhm.
And that Monday, we were up and running with a virtual presence that was out of this world. And prior to COVID really, kind of hitting hard in January, we were working on our strategic plan for the next 5 years.
Okay.
And that strategic plan included us really expanding and really kind of taking our virtual programming to another level. That was over 5 years we were planning for.
Mhm.
5 years, not 5 weeks or 5 days, right? And this is literally what and this is we have such an amazing staff. We have such an amazing program staff and marketing staff, and just overall just amazing group of folks that just we dove in. So what we did was we transferred all of our support groups to Zoom platform. So everything that we were doing live and in person in terms of our networking groups and our support groups, we transferred them over to Zoom. And let me tell you, we got our participants, they up, I mean, and our typical demographic, we service all ages, but really a lot of our demographics are 50 plus.
Mhm.
So this platform isn't necessarily the most familiar to a lot of people, but really they wanted it bad. So they were there, they were flexible and pliable and patient, and we were able to walk. We have some amazing participant navigators that would be on the phone just walking people through the steps on how to get on, how to load the app, how to do whatever needs to be done. We continued with our telephone consultations for individual counseling. So all of our therapists, their schedules were just packed back to back with phone calls. We even made calls, check-in calls. Our participant navigators were calling our folks to make sure that they were okay and they were safe and sheltered in. We also have, if you go to our website, which is www.cancersupportcenter.org, we have just a whole library of online programming that you can just tap into at any time. And you can do a yoga class, you can take a cooking class, you can, we have all sorts of professional programs where doctors and experts in the field did seminars for us to come in to tell you about your certain types of cancer, certain types of treatment, even things like, the legal aspect to how to create a will and things like that. I mean, we have all sorts of medicinal cannabis, you know what I mean? Though that's very much a big topic now, on how to best utilize that as a means to deal with some side effects to cancer and things like that. So we have so much information out there. People really felt connected. The one thing that we had closed the doors and we had sheltered in place for several months, and then we opened our doors for limited hours for emergency walk-ins. So, you might have a newly diagnosed that just can't get what they need via, the phone or via Zoom. So we would have a therapist there that would meet behind a plexiglass, window. Everyone's masked. I mean, we went through all the precautions, 6 feet apart, more than 6 feet apart. We also have a wig boutique. So if you've lost your hair due to treatment, you could come and get a brand new wig free of charge. Well, when we were closed down for those few months, we were still handing out wigs. We would do Zoom calls where the participant would, kind of show us what they wanted, and we would kind of show them what we had, and we would mail and that was challenging, but we did it. But that was another thing when we opened our doors for limited hours. We had individual by appointment only, because before we would accept, walk-ins for wigs. We didn't turn anybody away, but this was, individual walk-in, individual by appointment, meetings with folks so that we could actually fit people for wigs. And so we've slowly, been trying to just stay safe. It's that everybody's doing it, trying to still meet the need, because here's the thing, the need is greater than ever now. Can you imagine having a cancer diagnosis, but having a cancer diagnosis, during COVID? Like, that's almost unthinkable. So even though we're trying to be safe, we recognize that people need us now more than ever. And actually our numbers, our participant numbers, have gone up 300%.
Wow.
Because now you have people that, they've various barriers. So maybe I'm in treatment and my immune system is really low, so I'm not going to come out. Right. So I'll miss a program, or I'm just fatigued and I'm not up to it, so I'm not going to come out. Or I have transportation issues, I can't get there, things like that. Or I have children that I've got to stay home with or find care for them, and I can't bring, there's so many barriers that prevent people from seeking, our services. And so now I can just turn on my computer and plug in. Like, we had kids camp this summer, and for the first time, we actually had kids that were in current treatment that were participating in kids camp. Oh. How great is that? You've got a kid that's in treatment, but still is able, when he comes home, to log on the computer and still have art and music and all those wonderful things that he or she needs, like, even more so, right? So if there's a silver lining in all this COVID yuckiness, that's really it, is that we've provided even more options for our participants to be able to utilize our services.
And that's certainly, to your point, one of the things that I've been trying to find, like, the silver lining.
The silver lining, that's right.
That so many people within their organizations or what have you have become they've become innovative in the way that they've provided services to their constituents. And it's really forced us all to think outside of the box.
Oh, yes.
And to do so quickly,
Yes, right, exactly.
And if you're in the midst of preparing your 5-year strategic plan, but you've got to try to work this into a very, to roll out within a matter of weeks or months.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And I'll give you a perfect example of innovation and creativity. So we were entering, spring is a big fundraising time of year for us. So, we're a not-for-profit, we don't receive any, state or federal funding. So we really rely upon our fundraising efforts and donations and grants and things that we've got a really robust development department that works really hard. But we were entering that, our fundraising season, and, everything came to a screeching halt. And we're like, okay, what are we going to do? So we had closed our doors. We were, I think, our spring walk of hope, which brings in about $100,000 for us, we had to postpone. So that was shut down. That was supposed to happen in May. We said, what are we going to do? Our gala was coming up, all these other things. What are we going to do? So our executive director had the idea, let's do a good old fashioned telethon. Now, let me tell you, we all remember, I don't know, you're young, maybe you're younger than me, I don't know, Dr. Muhammad, but I remember Jerry Lewis and Lou Rawls, those were all, and I was like, oh my God. Now we still had to be socially distanced. So that meant that all of the programming that came in, so all of the fun stuff that you would see, that had to be either live streamed in or videotaped and recorded. And really the only live people that were there in studio, which was the center, was the executive director and myself. So can I tell you, oh my God. First of all, when I think about it now, I kind of break out in hives, because I'm like, I can't believe we did that. You know what I mean? I was like, I can't believe we did it. And in the matter of, I think it was like 5 weeks, 5 or 6 weeks, we pulled it together. We had 4 hours of programming that was just amazing. And we brought in like $70,000.
Wow.
Yeah, it was amazing. So, so yeah, innovation, we had never done it before. Folks just supported and just came through for us like never before. And we were able to do it and really bring in some funding that was much needed at that time. So,
Now, I do want to ask how, if people want to get involved and volunteer,
mhm,
what do they need to do? I mean, I know in the midst of this, maybe that
yeah.
might look differently.
It does. It does. Well, funding opportunities have kind of decreased somewhat, but that's not that's going to change because all this is all finite. We're gonna beat this. We're gonna get through this. So we're gonna get back to our normal mode of operation. But what you would normally do is on our website we have a tab that's a how to get involved tab, and you would just pop that tab and another tab that says volunteering, and you go to there and there's a volunteer application. Really, we have different areas of volunteerism. So as I mentioned before, I run a outreach ambassador program that's really popular. That's a huge part of our volunteering because they really are the voice of the center. They represent us in so many ways that I would not be able to. We have, we service over 21 counties. We have over 70 communities that we reach, from anywhere from Blue Island to really, actually not even Blue Island, actually south side of Chicago. We have a strong presence of folks that will come from the city to the suburbs to utilize our services, all the way through Joliet and even Northwest Indiana. We've got a lot of folks that will come in. So there's no way that I would be able to, to go to all those different communities and do outreach. So our outreach ambassador program is huge. And then we have a lot of special events volunteers. So because we have 4 major fundraisers that we do every year, we have 2 walks of hope, one in the spring in the Frankfurt area, one in the fall, which is in Homewood, and we have a golf outing and we have a gala. And those, we're constantly looking for volunteers to help, not only the day of, but you can sit on those committees and you can help organize them. But we constantly need volunteers. We do also need volunteers when our doors are open and we have regular business hours. We have volunteers that answer the phone, that do mailings for us. We also have several ancillary boards. So
Mhm.
we have a women's board, and actually our women's board was our very first board that really helped raise some of the seed money for the center. They do a fashion show, they do a house walk and things like that. And then we have a junior board, which is kind of, that 20 something, demographic, kind of out of college, and they do a lot of their activities in the city. So that's a fun group if you're looking to be involved and you're kind of a young person that wants to get your feet wet in that area. Then we have 2 community boards. One is in the Mokina area and one's in the Homewood area, and they do a lot of fundraising as well. They have a big Halloween party and a March Madness, and all sorts of fun stuff they do. And really, the goal is for them to just be a presence in the community from a just kind of a fun kind of aspect, doing fundraising and events and things like that, and just keeping that presence in the community and just being that ambassador. So there's lots of ways to get involved, and I do have an orientation that I do quarterly. So when you fill out your application, you will receive a notice of when that orientation is. All of that is has been on, kind of, we've suspended that temporarily now. So just hold tight. But I still will process, applications that come in, and you will get a notification when we kind of start back with that process. But there's lots of ways to be involved.
This is great. Now, I'm just curious. I mean, uh, one of the things that I'm curious to know is, because you have all of these great resources, what has been, I think, some of the barriers that may, keep people, or may have in the past, I guess,
Mhm, mhm.
kept people from accessing the support center? I know you talked about, some folks who, parked in the parking lot 3 or 4 times before they finally came in. So that
Right,
was something that they had to come to terms with,
right.
on their own. But
Mhm.
Are there any other sort of barriers that you think that,
Absolutely, absolutely. And that's so interesting that you would ask that question because, we've for 25 years, kind of our model of service has been we're here for you. So we have this beautiful facility. Now we have two facilities that were there to bring people into our space. Because think about it, 25 years ago, support services looked a little differently, and that partnership with the healthcare arena looked a little different, right? They didn't necessarily play nice in the sand. They thought that we were the fluff part, right? And I get that because they're there to take care of that physical aspect of the healing process, but we've always been one that says this is a joint effort. You have to take care of the whole person, the psychological, the psychosocial part. So back kind of 25 years ago, you didn't have, the aesthetics that we have now. So if you go to some of the newer hospitals like Silver Cross, or they've got waterfalls in the waiting areas, and they've got the mood lighting and the soft colored walls, whereas before you had fluorescent bulbs and all those kinds of things that were very harsh. So what we were trying to do was we were trying to create that aesthetic in our facility so that when you came in, you felt like you were in your own living room. You felt, we've got a lot of soft couches and big pillows and beautiful colored walls and all those kinds of things, and music playing and things like that. So that was really important. Well, and that always has, and it still continues to be important, but things are changing, right? So now treatments are changing, and people are oftentimes working during treatment. So that looks a little different. So now about 10 years ago, we started partnering with the hospitals and doing programming at hospitals, right? So that now, if you can't come to the center, say you're working and you just don't have the time, when you're there getting your treatment, then maybe you can stop and take yoga, or stop and, meet with our nutrition educator about, your meal plan or something like that. So that was the next step, right? Was coming outside of our doors to meet the needs of people that can't necessarily get to us. Well, fast forward now to today, another 10 years later, we're finding that the barriers are even vaster. So let's talk about food insecurities. Okay, so one of our 5-point model programming has to do with nutrition. So we are very adamant about, you have to nurture the body. That's part of the healing process. So we teach you about foods, healthy foods and things like that. What about people who live in food deserts? So they still get cancer. So how do that? So if we're telling you that you need to go and you need to eat properly and you need to, take care of yourself nutritionally, but yet you either don't have a grocery store that has fresh produce and vegetables in your area, or you don't have transportation to get to a grocery store that, has all those things, what do we do? Right. So what we've been doing is we've been partnering. There's a wonderful organization run actually by one of our participants, Ann Jackson, who runs a nutrition food pop-up organization. She comes to the center. This is a new relationship, so we've only done 2 now, but these are definitely going to be regular pop-up events, and we set up in our parking lot, and she brings fresh, she partners with local farmers and brings fresh fruits and produce, and we have grains and healthy foods, and it's such a wonderful experience you have, especially during COVID. You have an appointment where you're the only one there, and you get to go to each station and shop for your own foods, and it's wonderful. So all of our participants that might be experiencing a food insecurity because they're afraid to go out during COVID and go to the grocery store, or they live in an area where they don't have those things. Now we're able to fill that need. We're able to bridge that gap. We're partnering, with the local villages. One of the local hospitals did a needs assessment that identified 4 areas in the Southland area that had the highest mortality rates in breast and prostate cancer. And we were able to secure a grant that was allowing us now to actually go into those communities and to actually do screenings, to actually provide them resources and information. We just had a panel discussion last week on breast cancer. We're doing one November 18th on prostate cancer. And we're going to be able to then, in the spring, hopefully be able to bring, screening mechanisms to the community so that they don't have to go anywhere but in their own backyards to have these important screenings done. So I think you're seeing an evolution even within our own, mode of care, support services, how we're recognizing needs and we're doing the best we can to really ebb and flow and to fill in those gaps and to provide those bridges. And the key is the partnerships. We can't do it by ourselves. We're partnering with some amazing organizations in the community and villages and other public service organizations. The fraternal and sororal organizations as well have been partnering with us, the Omegas and the Deltas and all these wonderful groups that are just, we're doing amazing things, I'm telling you.
Well, that's awesome. I am very excited. I mean, I know I've been in the community for, I don't know, it's been about 6 years now. And I know when I met you, that's who I knew you as, the person from the cancer support.
Right.
So I'm really excited about the work that you are doing, that you're involved in. And I think it is so important to actually do work that you're passionate about. And so, when I think about your story, it's just amazing how it's come full circle for you and your involvement. I would certainly like for you to, before we wrap up, let people know again what's the website. So if they wanted, check out the programs and services that are offered, if they're interested in preparing for volunteerism once we get back to normal, if you could give the website and just how folks can get in contact.
Absolutely. Well, you can reach us at www.cancersupportcenter.org. We have 2 locations, one in Homewood on Elm Street and one in Mokina on 196th Street and LaGrange Road with limited hours. So I would encourage you to visit our website for those hours. And, certainly, you can reach out to me at Cynthia Turnquest at cturnquest at cancersupportcenter.org. If you have any specific questions, that's what I'm here for. I'm happy to help.
Awesome. Well, I would love to have you come back just so we could talk about some other programming and what else you all are doing, in the beginning of the year. So we're, winding down in 2020. I think all of us want to get out.
I know. It's time, right?
Yes, I would love to have you come back and definitely just share all of the great work that you all are doing so that we can remind people that the resources available and there is also an opportunity to get involved. So I thank you so very much for.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. We so appreciate the opportunity to share. Absolutely. So thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely. So you promise you're going to come back again?
I promise. Yes.
Right. Well, thank you so much. And thank you for tuning in to another episode of Lite It Up. I always try to provide you all with resources that are available right in your own backyard. So make sure you share this episode with others because I am sure that there is someone who can benefit from all of the resources that are available at the Cancer Support Center. So make sure you tune in next week for another episode of Light It Up. And as always, don't forget to continue to light it up and shine bright like a diamond. Thanks for joining me this week on Light It Up. Make sure you visit my website at www.liteituppodcast.com or www.aginahmuhammad.com. You can also find me on social media using the handle @LightItUpPodcast. If you like what you've heard, please be sure to hit the subscribe button so you'll never miss a show. While you're at it, I'd appreciate a rating on iTunes, or you can simply tell a friend about the show. Be sure to tune in every Tuesday for a new episode. Until next time, light it up and shine bright like a diamond.